May I have a motion to return the special board meeting budget work session to public session? Mr. Bullen, second. Ms. Poulin, all in favor? Carried unanimously. I call the special meeting budget work session to order. All board members are present. Mr. Matursky, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be advised that in the event of a fire emergency and an evacuation should be necessary, an alarm will sound. Please note all marked emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we request that everyone turn their cell phones and other electronic devices to silent. Thank you. Item number 3. Mr. Matursky and Dr. Brown Hall, I turn the session over to you.
And I am going, thank you very much, Board President McCleary. I'm going to turn it over to our ever so capable CFO, our Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Mr. Tom Matursky.
Thank you, Dr. Brown Hall. Today, we're here to review the 2023-24 budget once again. And the information that will be presented is very similar. In fact, it's the same to what we saw earlier in March at our regular board meeting. We have been reviewing information and we have not had any major changes or changes that would impact the total numbers of our budget. However, I do want to spend time in going over all the numbers once again so that our community is well aware of what we're planning for the next year and also how this may even align up for the following year. So this expense comparison sheet shows us what the major increases are for the 2023-24 budget on the left side. And we do a comparison column on the right side as a look ahead to the subsequent school year. I'll address a couple of the major changes toward the end here, but I want to begin by sharing that the majority of our expenses, as you can see, are related to salary and benefits. So on the salary side, these are contractual increases of about $4.5 million. That also entails increases in our benefit piece, which is our Social Security. This is the employer portion of our payments that are necessary for those taxes, and that's $475,000. Health insurance is a major increase this year. I have shared information in the past, but our district is self-insured for health insurance, which means we really do not have a premium-based policies. What we do is we pay actual expenses. And what we have found is at the conclusion of COVID, as we've moved away from COVID, the health insurance expenses, the health expenses we've paid over the last 2 years have increased significantly. And that is why you're seeing a major increase of $4.1 million in this area. Our teacher retirement expenses, these are mandated expenses that we have to pay to the teacher retirement system and the employee retirement system. They are increasing $600,000. This is due to increases in the participation rates provided by these organizations to the district. BOCES is an expense that we use here in our district for student programs, student supplies, and administrative purposes. That is going up $700,000. And then we have bus transportation of a $1.5 million increase. Cybersecurity is a relatively new item, and this is information that we need to actually bolster our threat assessments and with software and hardware equipment, as well as positions that we will be adding to our technology department. That is a $250,000 increase. And lastly, utilities is up by $150,000. Just as today, I saw that both natural gas as well as electricity are climbing from last year up about 12 to 14%. So that is really reflective in that number. So all of these increases result in $12,320,397, which provides a working expense budget of $224,848,483, which is 5.80%. Before I leave this and go on to budget reductions, I want to bring out information on that right side. There's really one notable item that in the 24-25 look ahead, and that's in health insurance. You see that that expense is significantly less. It represents really the inflation amount that we would expect next year. So the point here is that we're making a big adjustment this year, and that is a high increase of 4.1 million. But as we look forward to the future years, we really come back down to more of a normal increase. This next slide is resulting in.
Question on the last slide?
Yes. Yeah, just as a curiosity, as I try to look forward, the bus transportation is going up in the next 23-24 proposed or expense a smaller amount than in this year's budget. And in my mind, I would think that bus transportation is going to continue to climb. So I'm thinking, is that 1.1 million added to the 1.5, or that's just how we're going to propose it going forward? That's going to be the base level.
It's an estimate. We have a request for proposal currently out there for transportation services. So this is the district has had a larger increase in this current year to start to ramp up to what we expect to be market value. So what we're hoping is that 1.1 will be a good estimate for the 24-25 year. However, the RFP will actually determine what those costs will be, and we will have that information really for board approval in July.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions? I don't want to move past this slide if there are other questions. If not, I will move ahead. And the next piece here is the good news, what we have as far as reductions. And so we offered a retirement incentive, and that is contractual. That has allowed us to receive a large group number of teacher retirements, and that comes out to a reduction, which is net of the incentive that we must pay, a 15% incentive, of $1,460,480. So when we take that and we then look at where that positions our budget, we have a program increase, net increase of $10,859,917, and that brings the working budget to $223,388,003, 5.11%. Of course, no adjustments on that estimate for the 24-25 year. That would remain the same at this point in time. The next piece of information is really just a summary on our tax cap, which really is the way that we come up with what our levy will be for our taxes. The information here, I'm not going to go over all the details, but I do want to highlight the important aspects of this. The one thing is that the tax cap is set at CPI rate is what's used to multiplier here in this formula is 2.0%. That is, I guess, correlated to what the real CPI would be for goods and services over the 2022 year, which was 6.50%. So it's inherently low, but that's the tax cap set by New York State for school districts to follow. What we have done as we go through the formula is I'm just going to get to the actual numbers at the bottom. This tax cap limit for our assessments would be $4,598,636. So that is the amount that we could increase our tax levy without going over the tax cap amount, which means it requires only a simple majority vote. However, what we are proposing is significantly less. We're proposing a tax cap levy increase of only 2%, not the 3.35% that we could have, with a levy increase of $2,745,000. That is $1,853,636 under the cap amount. So the reason we're doing that is really going to appear on the next page as I go here and explain the revenue picture of our district. So specifically, what we have here is, and again, I realize from reviewing this on the slide, it's rather difficult to read all the items. So I encourage anyone who wants to look at the detail to go online and look at the presentation there where you can see it more clearly. But this is a full transparent disclosure of all of our budgeted revenue items. And again, the key items here are going to be highlighted with the starting point being our state aid. State aid for the district, this is one of the highest state aid increases we have ever received in the district for 1 year. And the amount is $9,246,791. And this is really attributed to the fact that the state is fully implementing foundation aid. And our district did not receive higher increases in past years. So that's why we're getting a larger increase in the 23-24 year. So that allows us an increase of $8,319,022 in foundation aid. All the revenues are always reviewed very carefully every year. And so that's why you see some are going up and some are going down. Pilots, which are payment in lieu of taxes agreements, they're going down by $474,680. Sales tax receipts have been up this year. We're able to increase that revenue by $1,600,000. And we look at our reserves and our fund balance planning, and we're able to make some adjustments in those categories as a result of the higher state aid we are receiving. So we're actually reducing our fund balance appropriation by $1,250,000. And with the fund balance and reserves, the total reduction in those categories is $2,430,000. So essentially, when you look at the budget, the tax levy increase, as I showed on the prior slide, is 2%, and the budget to budget here is 5.11%. So the next slide here is just showing the balanced budget perspective that we have. Again, working budget revenues must always equal revenue or expenses, and we see how that is really conformed here. The other items I'm just sharing again is the carry amounts of a tax cap, tax levy. We had the possibility of that almost $6 million increase at 3.35%. However, it's going to be recommended at $2,745,000 or 2%, and that's a $1,853,636 under the budget with a budget to budget increase of 5.11%. So what does this do to our estimated payments and increases for a property assessed at $250,000? Well, the dollars here, it comes out to an estimated tax rate of $18.82, which is a 37 cents increase, or again, 2%. The one point I want to make is these are calculated based on the last year's tax assessments and equalization rates. We do not receive information on those changes until mid to late July. So these numbers will change somewhat, but that is really out of our control. Our control is to set the tax levy, and that's the amount that is the increase. So with that said, using that scenario, a $250,000 home, if you're on a tax credit plan, it's an increase of $92.29. If you have Basic Star, the increase is $82.27. And if you qualify for Enhanced Star, it's $69.83. So this plan, as you saw, we have a tremendous increase in state aid, and that also requires us as a school district to create a foundation aid plan for those increases. And so these are the numbers, these are the increases. Our increase of the $8.1 million is approximately a 23.45% increase of our foundation aid over the prior year. Our plan here, which I'll go over on the next few slides, can be commented on by going to the ARP comment at williamsvillek12.org email address. And we're accepting comments that began at the last meeting, March 14th. and goes through April 21st. We will review all the comments and we will share a report of them in June 2023. So the type of items that we are using the foundation aid for are really all student related, which is what they should be. So we're really supporting student learning and other core academic areas. So the items, I'm not going to go over all the details, but you can see we're spending some of these funds to provide support through math specialists at the elementary and middle level to provide remediation and intervention, additional literacy reports, supports for materials for phonics, summer resources for ENL take-home materials. We're providing school counselors at the elementary, middle school level, continuation of the certified behavior specialist, many student wellness initiatives, as you can see, suicide prevention, primary project, sources of strength, web, and link crew, reading specialists at the elementary, middle, and high schools to provide remediation and intervention, and additional instructional supports during the summer for middle school students in the areas of algebra, teaching assistants to provide individuals and small group support for students in ELA reading and math.
And just to be clear, I do want to be clear because they're not all new positions. Like you won't see $4.5 million of new reading specialists, right? And so I just want to make sure that's clear because not only for the board, but for the public, because I don't want people, thinking that we have that many more positions.
Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I'm jumping back a few slides.
Mhm.
On slide 5 here, there's a line that says day school tuition. How many kids do we have to send out of district to get services? And I'm assuming that's what that is.
Yeah, the day school tuition is really tuition we are receiving from other public schools
Okay.
or kids that we're servicing at non-public schools. So we have to provide services in that, and that's usually where that's coming from.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And so if we were to go then to this last piece, and I'm willing to go back to any of these slides, but we have April 18th would be the regular meeting where we would have budget approval being requested by the board. May 4th is our annual meeting as required by law prior to the budget vote. There will be a budget presentation at that meeting. And then May 16th is the budget vote as well as the board candidate vote. So with that, go back to any slides and
Can I say one thing, Tom, before you start with the questions? Because I do want to clarify one thing with the board, because there was a question prior initiated by board member Kazmierek Bogner about new positions. And I know we did speak about possibly math specialists. We talked about the guidance counselors. One thing I did not indicate, though, that Tom did make clear is when you look at that cybersecurity line, another IT specialist focused on that. All right, so I want to make that clear also. I apologize for that exclusion.
Yes.
Just a quick question, and I don't think you have to go back to a slide. When there was a reference to pilot that shows a decrease, does that mean that fewer properties are being granted that? Or by decrease, do you mean the reverse of that?
The way that really is presented to our district is that the agreements are normally either entered into by the Amherst Industrial Development Agency or Erie County. What's happening in a decrease scenario is that one of those properties that has previously had the agreement is come to the end of their term. So when it comes to the end of the term, we no longer receive the actual, I will call it tax payments at this point through their pilot agreement. What winds up occurring is the properties go back to the normal assessment rolls. So as a result, they are being taxed, but we're no longer including it in this separate revenue stream.
Kind of what I thought, but I appreciate the explanation.
You're welcome.
I just had a question about the foundation aid. Has the state revised the formula for that?
No, the formula is still the same. It's a very complex formula. There's three options, and it depends upon many of the factors of your own school district based on your demographics, based upon the income, the wealth factors, as well as, free and reduced lunch. All of that factors into it. So what really has transpired is that because of our status of those factors, we wound up being at the very end of the full implementation point. So many other districts got larger increases earlier on. We did not receive those. And that's why we're getting it in the 23-24 year.
In the final year
Correct.
of the correction. So when Tom says this is a historic increase in foundation aid, it truly is. But we have to be very mindful that we will not see an increase like that again. So we're in the final year of the foundation aid correction, if you will. And I know many legislators have asked for a new foundation aid formula. Because it is so complicated, it will take a while for the governor's office to attempt to generate something like that with the help of the state education department.
So one last question. The state legislation is considering the free lunch program. And if it does get approved, will it affect our budget?
No, because the child nutrition program is separate and distinct from the general fund. This is only on the general fund. They operate in a different fund and they're funded basically. In other words, their revenues are made up of the reimbursements they receive from New York State for the lunches, as well as the actual receipts that they receive. So the difference would be next year for that program is that there will really be no sales except for a la carte. And all of the lunches that would be served to students would be reimbursed from New York State. And that's similar to what happened when we had COVID, where the federal government was allowing free lunches for all students, and it was a pass-through to that program.
I would say it'd be nice to see the universal free meal program, something I've been talking about for a very long time.
Mhm.
So hopefully it's getting closer to maybe going on. But my question goes with the financial aid, foundation aid increase. So is that a one-time increase, or is that like we can plan going forward that amount is a minimum? Okay.
No.
That would lead into the other part of the question is, we've developed looks like a very strong foundation aid increase plan, which, is more than $8 million. But if the state doesn't provide for the next $8 million in the following budget year, we're going to have to make a decision as a district. What do we include? How do we balance that all out? Is that logical to think that way?
Every year's budget is a unique budget. However, what I will say is this: if your budget now at this new level is sustaining and supporting those positions, then there's no need to add. As Dr. Brownhall said, the positions are not necessarily added or new, but once they're in the budget and they're supported, you may be in a position to support them in future budgets with regular foundation aid increases. Again,
We'll look for a maintenance budget, not a new budget,
yeah.
a maintenance budget that allows us to maintain that.
Typical.
So in terms of the foundational aid, I understand there won't be increases in the future. All the districts kind of got their bulk payment up to now, but it'll stay kind of level unless they have legislation go through that would, pull back foundational aid. Am I correct in saying that?
that is what I would expect. However, there's always the chance that that will not happen. And the only reason I say that is because the information shared by the Office of the State Comptroller in a review of the executive budget, this current 23-24 budget, is that the fiscal years of 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26, 27 are imbalanced. And what that means is they're projecting, and this is the Department of Budget, a $22 billion deficit. So if that holds true and they're not new revenue streams for the state, anything can happen,
That's 22 billion over those 3 years,
right? 23 or 24, 25, 25, 26. and
right? Not all just in 1 year. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
multiple.
Right.
It's the information is about a 5.6 million or billion dollar deficit in 1 year, and then it goes up and it goes down. But it sums to 22 billion over those 3 years.
I mean, with the rising interest rates, would it affect our budget?
The effect that will have on us is really twofold. Our interest earnings should start to go up a bit. We are doing certificate of deposit investments with our funds that are available. That's going to help us and increase that. However, the offset to that is always going to be on the expense side, because when interest rates rise, that means that vendors' prices are usually going to follow and rise. So, what we're going to receive in interest rate earnings will help in the following year's budget, 24, 25, likely. But you're probably going to have an inflationary impact on the expense side that will more than offset that.
Will that also affect our capital projects?
We will be doing some borrowing. We do short-term borrowing, bond anticipation notes. I shared information late last week with our bond finance manager. They told me that the most recent borrowing for a band was 2.89%. We have a very good bond rating of AA1. So I would expect that we'll at least do that or better. Now, give you a comparison point, that's 2.89%. That was for about $15 million. We'll be borrowing about $4 million this coming year, 4 to 5. When we did bands 2 years ago, we were getting it for about 0.8%.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Matur?
No, just a quick shout out to Mr. Matursky on that. We talk about bond ratings, like the questions and interest, but AA1 is the best. And I've been working with Tom for many years, and I think the district should thank you and your team for all that you've done, to keep our district financially in a great place.
Thank you, Dr. Littman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
At this time, we welcome anyone in attendance who wishes to speak about the budget to step up to the podium at this time. All right. Item number 4. May I have a motion to adopt and approve the volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers resolution as presented? Dr. Singh, second. Mr. Biscaglia. Discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Our next regular board meeting is April 18th. And may I have a motion to adjourn the special meeting budget work session? Dr. Littman, second. Mr. Bulin. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.